Morning, everybody. I'm Nancy Vandell, chairperson of the NCAC Bylaws Subcommittee, and I call the meeting to order at 9:08. Um, could everybody please introduce themselves and on the committee and indicate their, I have no conflicts, but if you guys could
Michael
indicate.
Michael Beachley, scribe, no conflict of interest.
Wyatt Angelo, no position, no conflicts.
Thank you. Oh no, you are a key position, Wyatt. I'm going to disagree with you on that. But no, and then Mark Everett, our NCAC chair, has joined us by phone. So thank you. We are waiting on a couple of committee members, but hopefully they will join us soon. So did everybody have a chance to see the agenda? I'm going to go ahead and share it. Hopefully. Can everybody see it? So I did make one minor change. So this is R1. I realized I put the wrong time on our feedback session on May 17th. But basically, we're going to defer the minutes until the next meeting. We'll go through my report. And Mark, if you have a report, we'd love you to, you'll be on with your separate agenda item. And then go back into a policies, procedures, and references update. Talk about our feedback sessions 2 and 3 planning, and then just meeting and action item summary. And if we have anyone from the public, they can comment as well. So any changes to the agenda that anyone wants to, anything else that anyone would like to talk to?
Looks good to me,
Okay.
Nancy.
Okay, thank you. So going through our calendar, I now have meetings through the end of June and so we have 2 feedback sessions coming up, one tomorrow and one on Wednesday night that we'll talk about. And then we have another feedback session in 2 weeks that right before our final, hopefully, feedback session on the 17th that would have incorporate any additional changes that we have in the policies, procedures, and references. And then we have an executive board meeting on Wednesday, May 28th, our monthly meeting at 3:30, and then a special membership meeting on May 31st to hopefully adopt the policies, procedures, and references, as well as some related bylaws amendments. And then on Friday, June 6th, we have a bylaws subcommittee meeting, and then Saturday, June 14th is our subcommittee elections in the regular membership meeting. Final bylaws subcommittee meeting on June 20th. So I think that does not include all the community plan meetings, but I think it's got everything else. So I think that's there. I sure hope Tom's okay. This is really strange. I'm going to stop sharing. So I guess we'll just go into my report. We've had quite a busy time since our last meeting 2 weeks ago. There have been a couple of special meetings. It seems like the whole subcommittee was there for the special meeting on Tuesday night with talking about the ballot measure. Did you get any feedback from that, Mark, on how people thought that went?
No, I haven't. I haven't gotten any feedback, Nancy. No.
Okay. I thought it was interesting. I think it would have been good if she had an article that we could have pointed to. We probably should have done that in the meeting in hindsight to have. I would think that they have some pro stuff, but Commissioner Bell was able to articulate what the ballot measure was all about. And I think people had an ample opportunity to ask questions and get answers. And I think it was interesting to me. I hadn't really been that familiar with the ballot measure until she was going through it, and I kind of get the disconnect. I hope the people opposing kind of understood the math involved, but it could have been presented, I think, maybe a little more clearly on what what this was all about and how much money could get to the sheriff and how the math worked out. But did anyone else have any comments about that meeting?
Yeah, just as an aside, one of the things that I have not been practicing law for a long time, so it escaped me at the time. But one of the things that was completely unsaid and unasked was, if this doesn't pass, does that mean you're taking that $720,000 out of the sheriff's department budget um, for next year in order to effect the cost savings that they're trying to effect? And she didn't address that, and I didn't. It didn't strike me until after the meeting was over. So
I,
um,
I I think what I heard from her was on that was that if it doesn't pass this time, they would be looking seriously at bringing it back in November. And in the meantime, filling in from their savings, or savings is
yeah,
probably the wrong word. But yeah, if it didn't pass that time, it sounds like you're right. It didn't get asked about what they would do. Sounds like they've got a really tough situation, with this forestry income, timber income going down significantly through no, sounds like they have no control over that from what I was gathering. It's a state related issue, environmental issue.
state and federal, actually.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, a lot of the forests are federal. So anyway, in
Well,
terms of the policy,
yeah.
oh, go ahead, Mark.
Well, I would just say that 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 I think that school districts and communities, counties and cities. I mean, I live in Washington County, and they're cutting huge amounts out of their budget. Portland's cutting out of their budget. The school district that I'm sit on currently is cutting 1.8 million out of their budget. So, so everybody, everybody in the state is seeing their budgets tighten quite a bit, and so it's not a surprise that that they are in the situation that they're in, and then if it doesn't pass, you have to go back to the budget process and make some decisions from there. That's what everybody does. That's what school districts do. That's what other communities do. And so I guess we'll just see what happens with the vote.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it'll be an interesting time. I think, many of us cannot vote in that, but I'll be watching. No, it's a tough situation. She talked about ballot measure 5, and I remember when that got passed, it was shortly after California passed Prop 13, which is devastating to schools and took a lot of the control away from local districts to put it in the state's hands. And I think it had a similar impact in Oregon with Measure 5. So that's why they rely on these local ballot measures. So moving on, I'd like to talk a little bit about, maybe premature since election is coming up in June, but I've kind of heard from each of you that you're interested in being on the subcommittee again next year. I hope that's the case. I really enjoy working with you guys, but in terms of meetings, I'm thinking, should we all be reelected, that we take the summer off. I think we deserve it. And I'm actually going to be traveling from mid August through mid September, so I would suggest resuming the third Friday in September. But just something to think about, not anything. But if you guys want to meet over the summer, you can speak up, and we'll talk about it, later in the spring too. So especially since 2 of our members aren't here, but I just thought I would raise the issue. I know last year I suggested that, and a couple of people said, well, why don't we meet once a month in the summer? So we did that, and that was productive. And so I'm amenable to that too. So
But last summer, we were uh, deep into creating things, and this summer we're not. Fingers crossed that it all
right.
goes through, and so on. Because I think at this point we're going to be responding to issues that arise that need focus on bylaws or policies. That's one thing, and that could happen anytime. And the other one is, something that we sort of hinted on but haven't really addressed, and that is we talked a little bit about, administrative issues and affairs that are not within the purview of the executive, or in the event that we don't have a secretary, or that we're in a transition, or something, who picks up the things that are lost, and that may come upon us. I mean, and we talked about that last time very shortly, and that's the only thing I think we're going to face. And so I think once a month is probably just fine. It may even be once a month, but on call too. That's, so I think summer break is fine. I think that's fine.
As do I.
I think we deserve
Yeah.
the last
Yeah.
2 years. So Tom just asked me to text him the link, so I think he'll be joining us
Yeah, okay.
shortly.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Otherwise, so I think I'm just going to move up feedback sessions 2 and 3 planning rather than or actually, I'm going to move it on to Mark your comments before we get in. I don't want to get into policies, procedures, and references until Tom's on, because he's got the only latest copy of the document. So, Tom, do you have anything? Or excuse me, Mark, do you have anything you'd like to report?
I don't really. I'd like the idea of you taking the summer off, or maybe once a month, or even on call. I like that idea, so I would support that. I think that everybody knows, but the community plan is really ramping up, and the middle housing that we voted on, I sent that to Sarah, so she's got that, and they're kind of at the mercy of the county and the county's pace and timeline on this. They're going to step outside of the middle housing portion now and work on the other portions of the community plan. I did share with Guy and Randall that the model that the bylaws subcommittee used about feedback sessions is one that I think they would like to really consider doing. Holding feedback sessions, whether it's on the community plan or if the county comes back and throws it back at the NESCO in terms of, here's some things we want you to address, feedback sessions for that as well. So hopefully they'll pick up on that and schedule feedback sessions. I know they're now feeling pressured to get it done, and I think the timeline is probably late summer to maybe fall now for the community plan to actually be voted on. That's probably the timeline for it. So that's probably the most pressing thing that's in front of the NCAC.
Okay. And Tom Sipe just joined us. Welcome, Tom.
Yeah, I saw an email last night that said the meeting on the 2nd was delayed till the 3rd, so I assumed that was this one.
Oh, not ours. No, I don't. That's interesting. There was an email that went out about the different. Was it from the NCAC?
Thought it was, but I just looked at it. I was late last night. I looked at it and said, oh, okay, I don't have a meeting tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. No, there's a feedback session tomorrow.
Yeah,
So
I knew that.
Okay. So I didn't see R32 in the document, so I can't bring it up. It looks like you're in a car.
Yep. Basically, the only changes I made were what you saw, what you had in that. My plan was, since I replanned it, since I didn't think we had a meeting today, was to go ahead and update the slide set and then send them both out at the same time, because I don't think it makes much sense. But I was also wondering whether or not I should you were kind of intimating that I shouldn't update the slide set, that we'd go with what we have. I can go either way.
No. Oh no. I was just saying, wanted to know if you wanted to do it, if you wanted me to do it. That was my question.
Okay. I can probably do it better live. that way I don't have to remember what's changed.
Okay. All right. But you're going to be there tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And I will be
All
there.
right.
tomorrow.
Okay. Good.
So,
All
so
right.
the question is, do you want the slide set updated to the R32 and issue that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll do that this afternoon.
Okay. I appreciate that. So we may have some additional changes as we discussed today, but I'll go ahead and use R31 to go through when we go through it today. We may not actually have that much to talk about at this point. So just I think the main thing is the communication, some of the changes we had before. So from the meeting on with the board.
Okay.
So thank you, Mark. Did you have any other items that you'd like to report? Okay.
No, I don't, Nancy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. So I do want to also talk about our feedback session with the executive board last week, and I want to thank Michael for attending that with me. And Wyatt, you watched the video. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it went very well. The board seemed to be very positive about everything, and we've made a few minor tweaks that I sent. I don't think I sent it until yesterday to Tom. So that he's updated in R32. So I think I thought it was positive, but Michael and Mark, do you have any comments about how that went?
Well, I thought it was great. It's again, it's a very complex process, and far more complex than I had imagined it was going to be, to tell you the truth. So I can only imagine how it landed with the executive board. Because they don't sit and listen to all of these discussions. But but the gist of the whole thing is there's a program. It makes sense. It's available. It's usable. It is equitable and meaningful, and let's move on with it. So there's a great deal of confidence in the process, and that keeps coming through again and again, and that I find that really pretty cool because I was not here in the prior iteration. Shall we call it that? when there were some conflicts and such, and I can only imagine what they must have been like. And I see this process is really a usable, good process to work with. So I was happy. Yeah.
Good. Mark, did you have any comments on how that went?
No, I thought it went. Well. I think that. I've kind of been attending the bylaws stuff, so there wasn't sort of any. I don't think there were any new things for me to hear, but I'm just appreciative of everything that the bylaws committee has done, and I think Rand made a comment, and Guy Sievert would probably make a comment that if they had bylaws like this when they were chairs, maybe they'd still be chairs. I don't know, but it's really helped. It's really helped. We just continue to say it's really helped the chair position in terms of guidance, and so it's just been really, really good, and I'm glad that we're doing it, and that it's going to carry on with future officers with the MCAC. So I think it's great.
If I can piggyback on that, Mark, I serve on two other significant panels, groups, if you will. One of course being the Faculty Senate, and the other one being the Corvallis OSU Piano International. We bring in pianists from all over the world. And one thing that I've noticed on both, and this one, is that there is a tendency for more and more tasks and responsibilities to fall on the hands and shoulders of the chair or the president. It seems like it's a natural process. If something comes up, who's going to handle it? Well, it hasn't been decided. Okay, the chair will deal with it. And my concern about that is that being the chair becomes more and more a problem and a heavy duty task and so on. And so just to piggyback on what you were saying, yes, this process has made it simpler and easier and more accountable to be on the executive board. But at the same time, I think as an organization, we need to be aware that natural move towards dumping more and more stuff on leadership needs to be handled up front and proactively and distributed throughout the membership so that it doesn't become a burden. And I see that in these other organizations as well. It's a process that if we don't pay attention to it, it becomes a problem. And I know you feel this. And so I just wanted to underscore that.
Thank you. And
Well, I
Wyatt,
think you're right. Oh, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Wyatt raised his hand.
Yeah, I watched the video, and I had to hark back on a discussion I had with Sarah about the complexity or maybe the detail of the bylaws that we have drafted for the NCAC. And in my experience in organizations, this is probably one of the larger documents that I've ever had to deal with from a standpoint of bylaws, and certainly more detailed. And that's also true of the PP&Rs. I can't remember a time where any organization that I've ever been part of has needed a PP&Rs. But in my discussion with Sarah, I asked her, I said, is this really necessary? Do the other NCA or CACs use these or have detailed bylaws like this? And she said, no. And I said, well, they seem to function okay. And her comment to me was, yes, they do. And then it struck me that really the bylaws initially, as we started out to amend them, and well of the PP&Rs, was to develop a comfort factor for the membership to know that they had a detailed set of values that were going to be implemented in the course of their deliberations. The secondary point was to basically be helpful to the executive board. And the fact that we had very little comment at the feedback session that I watched strikes me as having achieved at least that one purpose. And the feedback sessions we've had so far with the general public, which has been limited, has indicated to me that we've achieved the other purpose. So I think we're really hitting the mark with what we've got, and no pun intended, Mark, but it seems to me that we're kind of on point here. And at some point or another down the road, people may be able to function without this stuff, in which case they could totally disregard it if they want. But at this point, it becomes a kind of a quilt or blanket for everybody to feel comfortable in. So I think you've done a good job.
I would say the same thing, Wyatt, that it's, a few years ago, it was fairly contentious for different reasons. And now it's really, it's really calmed down, and the bylaws are a great blueprint for how the organization operates. And I thank the Bylaws Committee for doing that. You guys are it's been great. And the amount of trust, I think, and confidence that the community has in you is well put. I do think that I do worry that a little bit that the organization is going to be asked to do more, not necessarily the chair, but just the organization. And I wonder about capacity for doing that. And I would just say that there are some things maybe, and that's why I go back to the mission always when things come up, that there's just something, there may be a time when there's some things that we just say no to, that we're not going to deal with that because it's not within our mission or it's just on the periphery of the mission. So I do worry about capacity. I think, we've got the monitoring committee, we've got the communications task force, the monitoring task force, and the communication task force, I'm not sure the folks who were on it are still on it. So I do worry about capacity for the organization to fill roles and to take on more.
Yeah, and meeting fatigue is the other side of that too, Mark.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think I do hear that too, and I'm very optimistic that, you know, when our meetings end, because I think we'll still have ongoing work next year, but it'll be a lot less than it's been the last 2 years. And then hopefully the community plan will be done by the end of the calendar year. Hopefully that will alleviate a lot of that and allow the organization to start functioning in a more normal manner.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
even, and it might be easier at that point to try to fill some of those slots, like for the monitoring task force and that kind of thing, after some of this other stuff dies down, I hope. But I'm going to go ahead and move on. But thank you guys for all the comments on that. So I am going to go ahead and just start on feedback session stuff. I looked at the registrations, and I realized a lot of people register at the last minute, going right into the meeting. But right now we have one person who's not Mark or the rest of the committee signed up for tomorrow's feedback session. Someone, it's a name I don't recognize. So I think even if there's only one, now I think we will have more than one just because, but usually you can get some kind of a gauge from the registrations. I don't know that it's necessary for everybody to on the subcommittee to come tomorrow. You guys can decide if you'd like to. I'll be there. And we should have our 32 from Tom to be able to go through that. So, you know, and Wednesday night, there's nobody registered except Wyatt. So I think I think people at this point, part of it's meeting fatigue, and part of it, as you say, is that it's just something that people are trusting what we're doing. So so think about whether you want to attend. I don't, you know, even in the bylaws subcommittee feedback sessions, the bylaws feedback sessions, we would get at least 7 or 8 that would be signed up by now. So I think it may end up being like the first one that we had 3 starting and two later. So based on that, who would like to come tomorrow and help present?
I'll be there.
Yeah, I'll be
Okay.
there, Nancy, but I have to leave at 11 o'clock because I have a protest to attend.
Okay, Wyatt, that's great. And Tom, you're planning to be there?
Oh, I guess I will. What's the protest?
The
Is it
one
what
in the one in Tillamook, Tom.
Okay, I didn't know, was not aware of that, but I think, okay, fair enough. I'll be there.
So it did take, if we start at 10, it did take about it was about an hour and 45 minutes to go through this with the executive board. If it's somebody who hasn't been familiar with it before, it may be that we don't have to go into as much detail as we did with the executive board because, you know, a lot of it pertained to them directly. So I also have a meeting. My other group where I've been working on policies and procedures, for some reason, I'm the Tom in that group, is actually having a lunch meeting, end of the year thing, and we're passing the policies and procedures. So I'd kind of like to be there for that. And that starts at 11:30, but I've already told them I'm likely to be late. So anyway, look, it sounds like tomorrow's a busy day for everybody, and we'll try to just get through it as quickly as possible. I'm guessing there's not going to be a whole lot of discussion for it. So okay, great. I know Susan cannot make it. She'll be in the air tomorrow. So but it sounds like the rest of us will all be there. Are there any particular sections, thank you, Michael. You let me know you'd like to kind of handle the same sections you did last week, which were the parliamentary sections and the sections on forming, you know, subcommittees at the beginning of the year. I also think we can focus on the areas that we can focus on the areas that are sorry, I've got a distraction here at home, or my ring is calling out. We can focus on the areas that are more pertinent to the average member as opposed to ones that affect more the board members. So, but I think I like the way that
Are you
I
going
like
to
the
sort
way.
those out?
Probably not.
Just
I
okay.
we could, but I kind of I like the way Tom organized the presentation where he's got the main thought
Yeah.
and then the detail. And I'm thinking we could probably go through the main thought fairly quickly. And if there's something that someone wants to hear more about, we can go over it, but maybe not in the detail that we did on Wednesday night. Maybe we can try to keep it more like an hour. We did that for the first feedback session. I think it only lasted about an hour and 15 minutes. So I think that would still work. What do you guys think about that?
I think so. I don't think it needed to be as long as we did it before. And that may have been the reason why one of those three left. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Well, he left right at the beginning, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
but
Yeah.
you know, I think the main points are there, and if somebody asks a question, then you can go into more detail.
Hmm.
But as long as they get a gist of what these policies and procedures are about, then I think that's fine.
I think that's good, and they can always come on Wednesday. I had originally made Wednesday night tentative, depending on how much interest, and we were originally thinking we would break it into pieces, but I just don't think we need to. Having gone through the one last week, I think we can get through it pretty quickly.
Yeah, if we
So,
get two or three people again, I think that's a clear message that folks are pretty
mhm,
happy with the way things are going.
right,
If they're not happy, they're going to let us know.
they will. So far, everything's been positive from everybody. So.
Yeah, sure.
So why do you want to? We went through policy one in some detail in the first feedback session, but I think these are different people coming. So do you want to cover policy one and conflicts of interest and honor system stuff
Yeah,
fairly briefly? On all of these, it'll be fairly brief. And then Tom, let me know which parts you might be interested in. We could talk between now and tomorrow morning.
I'll just fill in whatever anybody's not.
And
I'm
why
fairly
don't you
conversant
cover?
with most of it.
And yeah, why don't you cover the organization of it too? What policy is versus procedure versus reference
Yeah,
and go through
I
the
figured I'd do that.
organization of the document. So I'll put you on kind of toward the beginning there. Okay. And then we'll just go through fairly quickly. And then we'll kind of regroup, maybe just, I'll talk to you guys after about Wednesday night, but I'm thinking we just do the same thing unless we don't get anyone signing up. So the other issue to talk about is the county, and I really haven't heard anything from Sarah lately about county stuff. And I'm thinking we're probably not going to be ready to have anything to submit formally to the county until after the May 17th feedback session. There's a few things that I want to be able to add in and then have it the May 17th session, and then we send it to the county. But if they're not back by May 31st, I don't see a problem in going ahead and having the membership meeting and approving it with the caveat that there may be some updates from the county afterward and having that as part of the motion. We kind of did that last year. We had most of it back from the county, but it wasn't completely formally back. So I think the motion could just be to approve it with minus any updates from the county. So I'm not anticipating anything at this point. I think the only thing that they may possibly come back with is the issue of political campaigns, and if it's a county ballot measure, just being able to have a county person speak. But so far, no. And I think it was good to be able to invite the opposition. It certainly created a sense of fairness among members on an issue that was a concern. So we talked about that before you came on, Tom, about the
Now, I
the
would have a
meeting
problem if
Tuesday.
I would have a problem if they didn't. Uh,
Hmm.
if they didn't have
would
the
say
opportunity to
same.
turn it off.
What's that, Mark?
I would say the same. I feel pretty strongly that if the county said, "Oh no, we can just come and present a ballot measure without offering somebody in opposition to also be there," I would have a real issue with that. I would not. I don't personally. I would not want to go along with that, but that's just me.
Okay. Okay, good. Good. So so maybe we'll talk about the motion. I think we would at least have some feedback from Sarah before we go into that May 31st meeting, and we have another meeting, committee meeting before then. So I think we'd be good. So I agree. That helps to hear that from both of you, actually. So at this point, I don't know that I think the only thing we haven't done yet is gone as a subcommittee through the communications and secretary job descriptions, communications task force and secretary job descriptions, because Gary and I met after our last meeting. So why don't I share that, and we could see if any of you guys have any issues with that.
Before we do that, I'd like to discuss whether or not everything in the references section is subject to just change by the executive board approval, or if it's going to take a vote. Because I think everything including job descriptions, is purview of the executive board and does not need a general vote. So I think it would be blanket.
My concern is that the map, it was so controversial that if we wanted to change the map, maybe we've built trust on that, but if something changed on the map, do you feel like maybe people don't care as much, but I would hate to change the map with just the executive board approval. The other thing on the job descriptions is, we have a terrific chair right now, but there could be a move to change the chairperson responsibilities and authorities. And I personally think that should go to the membership.
Well, we have the general philosophy of what the chairperson is meant to do, and these are details meant to be details of how they do it, and what kinds of things are useful for a new chair. And that's, to me, is all that should be there. Is useful things. And if those useful things change, then we should change the useful things. And
Oh yeah,
to my
I'd
mind,
agree
that's
with that.
If we have a procedure, that's different. But anything that looks like a procedure in the references ought to be moved, in my opinion.
Well, then I think maybe the job description should be moved back to procedures.
No, I don't agree. I think it's, once again, it's useful information. That's all it is, useful information.
Okay, well, on that note, why don't we go to the communications and task force job descriptions, and then we can have it with that filter. We can look and see whether we think that is something that could be changed by the executive board. How's that?
That sounds great.
And that's a good preface to that, Tom. Oh, let me go. Okay, can everybody, I don't know, can you see Tom from the car? I know Mark cannot, but you're pretty familiar with it, I think. And Tom has put this into R32 for when he does post that. So basically, this is going to require a bylaws change, and I had started drafting a Word document to kind of summarize all of our bylaws changes. And this new version of Office that I have does not allow you to automatically save things unless you use their OneDrive, and I don't use OneDrive. So I have to remember to save things. And my computer decided it was going to crash on me in the middle of that, and I don't have the document. So either Tom or I are going to be putting together, it's a relatively small list, but it is a list of things that will involve bylaws amendments. So this is one. So when we redid the bylaws for the secretary and the communications task force, we did some consolidation of the detail that were in the original bylaws. For some reason, it was just extremely detailed. And of course, we created the new communications task force in the new bylaws. But with the intent that when we had the policies and procedures, that we would move a lot of that to the policies and procedures. So the first part of this is to take the secretary the secretary part of the bylaws and take a bunch of it out. So everything here that's redlined would go out. And I can just show you here what that would look like. And I have both the clean copy and the the marked up copy in the meeting folder. So it changes it to this. So it's a very simple description in the bylaws of what the secretary is responsible for. And it's to record the minutes of the membership and executive board meetings, maintain the records as described in the policies, PP&R. And I thought about putting a policy or procedure number and decided those could all change. So just leave it vague. And then hold ultimate responsibility for NCAC communications, but she'll delegate those tasks to the communications task force as described in Article 7 of the bylaws and in the policies, procedures, and references. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, Nancy, I would only have one suggestion, and that is the section on maintenance of records is in the job description of the secretary, which is the bullet point 2. It should
Right.
maintain the records of the NCAC and perform the tasks as described in the policies, procedures, and references. Therefore, if you change the policies and procedures, amending the secretary's tasks through the executive committee, you don't have to rechange the bylaws.
And okay, say that again, Wyatt. Maintain the records of the NCAC and
perform the tasks.
form. And then take out as, right?
Yeah.
I'd modify that a little bit because that can be, and I'm sorry, a little pressed for words, but basically they don't have to, that person doesn't have to perform the tasks. They have to see that the tasks are performed.
Yes, that's down here. Yeah.
What's the?
I mean, maybe that's kind of splitting hairs.
How would you
Well,
word
That's
it,
not
Tom? Tom, do you have any thoughts about how to word that?
I am completely out of thoughts right now.
Okay.
Maintain the
Well,
records of the
that's unusual. We ought to record that.
You are recording.
And
Oh, we are. Yeah.
okay, we'll wordsmith it, but supervise basically
Yeah, supervise that. Yeah, what she said.
And it wouldn't be performant. We'll figure that out. Supervise the. Well, okay. Well, we'll work on that. This is an editor thing. This is an editorial function. So I think change tracking is actually tracking this right now. I just have the tracking, the showing turned off. So I've gone ahead and highlighted in yellow. It should show up, I think, when I.
Save.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes,
R2.
They even updated my antique version of Word to do that.
Did they?
They did. Bless.
Okay, I saved it as an R2, I think. It's probably an R1, but whatever. Okay, any other thoughts on this?
No.
That's a good thought. I'm going to just put on tracking again and just see what shows up. It did not show up, but it's a change. All right, yay. Okay, so I'm glad I highlighted it. Okay, so now the PP&Rs are showing up here where we basically moved all the stuff that was from up in the job description and moved it down to the PP&Rs. So it does say again, record the minutes of membership and executive board meetings and then maintain records of the NCAC as described in these policies, procedures, and references. So, and again, we could do the same thing here about ensure the maintenance. How about that?
Yeah.
Maintenance. And for some reason, it's not tracking this.
I think maintenance is ENCE, isn't it?
Yes. Maintenance. Thank you.
That's often spelled that way.
That doesn't look right either. Made,
That's,
oh,
that's,
I
that's my
see
problem.
this. There we go. All right.
I'm about to be in
I'm
motion, so
just,
I'm about to be in motion, so I'm gonna be turning off my mic.
okay. Okay. So we had this highlighted down below on financial reports, how, and we had that was a good discussion we had the other day with the board. Chris wasn't quite sure about what constituted financial reports. So I think that'll help when I write with him the secretary or the treasurer job description. We will flesh that out. So, and then Tom, you may know this. It came up in the meeting. Nobody knows where we have a general history of the NCAC, which is in this secretary job description. So that was from before. And I believe that in the community plan, you moved a history down to from the beginning of the old community plan down to, as an appendix kind of a thing. Is that correct? Do you have is there a history of the NCAC that you know about? Because Rand didn't know of one.
Well, I've got at least three.
Okay.
Um, which one do you want?
Well, whatever's the most accurate. I mean,
Oh, it's
see, that's
history. History is opinion.
yeah. So this is something that maybe we need I don't know, maybe for next year a procedure on. It's been in the secretary job description since the old original bylaws. They're not
I've
original, but the
forgotten
ones
that.
that that preceded the ones we worked on. So presumably there would be something, and I think it'd be nice for the NCAC to have one. So that's about the NCAC, not the history of Nusquin. We're not going back to the Indians and that
I,
kind of thing like the history of Nusquin,
Starting
but
route.
the
Proceed to
history of the
Northwest Logan
NCAC.
Road, then turn right.
sorry about that.
No
I
problem.
tried to mute myself, but before the
At the light, turn
uh,
East Highway 101.
uh,
Do we
No,
really need to have this in here?
well, it's saying that this is something the secretary is responsible for, and they didn't disagree. I think somewhere it seems like that would be a good maintenance of that. Seems like it would be good to have something somewhere, and maybe we need to do another procedure on
no,
what should be in that,
no,
or
I
another
think what we have,
reference.
I think we need a task force to do the history because
Ah,
there is some difference between people as to which is accurate.
oh,
And
you're
as I said,
serious.
no, I am serious. It is opinion,
Oh,
and there are
interesting.
different ones. And I don't think it's our place to figure out which one's right or wrong.
Yeah.
So we need a task force to do that.
So maybe a
And
future.
I would be happy to give them a starter document.
Yeah.
I am
Huh.
not the editor.
Yeah. Okay. I kind of like that actually, as you're talking about it. A future thing as we're talking about how we don't have enough people for different things, but that would be kind of cool. And then the record would be under the secretary to maintain it as a record. Because this basically what this is it's a list of the records of the NCAC. So all these things are things that would be a part of that list. I don't know. So White's proposed possibly taking that out as something to have.
Yeah, and you're getting at different people who might be interested in establishing the history. So I think we're not going to have as much. We'll have a different problem. It's making sure
Yeah,
the people who are interested in that know about it.
right, right. Another job. Okay. Any other comments on that? So I think I'll just take out describe how and say future task force. How's that? Okay, but everything else is just kind of moved in here on what constitutes the things that the secretary maintains or ensures the maintenance of. Does that sound okay? So let me make that clean. And Mark, I'm sorry, this has got to be boring for you here. You can't see it, but
Well, I've got to leave here, jump off of the call here. So, but thank you.
okay. Thank you, Mark, very much for joining us for all these
Okay.
different things. And I guess we'll see you
Okay.
tomorrow. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds great.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you. So the communications task force, the marked up version looks like this. So it's similar in the bylaw. It has a bylaws change where in the bylaws, all this stuff is under the communications task force. We're proposing moving that into the policies, all the red stuff into the policies and procedures. And then it leaves it looking nice and clean. So do we want to go through that? The executive, so this is all out of the current bylaws. That the executive board shall appoint one or more communications coordinators to the communications task force, and which will report to the secretary. The purpose is to assist the secretary. I see something in the chat. For some reason above me. Oh, okay. You could just speak up. Why can read assist a future task force in the creation of a history of the NACAC. Oh, okay.
That's a nudge to the executive committee to create it down the road.
Yeah. Okay.
And that way the secretary isn't responsible for it, but providing documents for them is the
Yeah.
assistants.
So I think we would leave general history of the NCAC in there as something, but then say assist a future task force in the creation. That sounds good.
Actually, it's the update. We have a history in the former community plan. There are some alternate compositions, at least one, maybe two if you count mine. So that's be maintenance.
Okay. Okay. In the update, a future task force and the update of a history of the NCAC.
I'd say, well, okay, update, maintenance, whichever.
Okay.
Maintenance implies ongoing process, and history is opinion. I think I said that.
Right. Although it seems like once we get an agreement on the history, hopefully the only maintenance would be any future updates of like lists of officers or lists of things like that. If anyone cares.
You have a different view of history than I do.
Not necessarily. I mean, I think there are a whole bunch of different things that need to be in there on what the NCAC does. That's not just officers lists. But you think, okay, well,
I'm just being a little maybe cynical. I don't
know.
You, Tom?
Yes.
Okay. No.
Such a change.
History is subject to change. It is. I just finished listening to a biography of Alexander the Great, and it's a different Alexander the Great than I knew.
Well, I think there are a lot of things of history trying to be rewritten right now in our country. Yep. So enough said.
Okay. I wasn't going to go there, but
yeah. Okay.
Wisely so, Tom.
Okay. So, any objection to the proposed bylaws amendment for the communications task force?
Nope.
No.
Okay. So the communications task force job description then takes all of that and brings it in. So when Gary and I met, we did some changes like maintain the NCAC website was kind of a duplicate. We have instead administer the NCAC website, electronic meeting platform, email campaigns, and any other communication related accounts. And Gary added email campaigns in there. We had a really productive discussion. And then, so everything in red is something that's changed from what was in the original bylaws for the communications task force. Maintain the NCAC electronic database and archives and facilitate access to archives for NCAC members, and then added upload NCAC electronic records to the NCAC's cloud storage system and a local NCAC storage device as specified in these PPNRs. So this is something where Gary and I had quite a discussion about, do we need a local NCAC storage device? And I know we discussed this last year with the bylaws that we did, but this is apparently his career. He's worked in data storage, and he was quite convincing on why you don't keep a local NCAC storage device. He said, when you subscribe through a company like we do, they have all sorts of their own backups, and try to keep everything synced is nearly impossible to do. So, and then how do you hand off the storage device from one secretary to another? It's just, he said, it's just a bad idea to try to have a secondary local storage. And then Sarah, hopefully we'll see if she's able to get the budget money to be able to have file storage for all of her records that would include the CACs. But they are required to keep records for all of their permitting, all of their land use stuff, everything going back in perpetuity as well. So at some point, we may be able to upload or have the county manage our records, but for now, we are doing it through our own resources. So if there's no objection, I would like to also have a bylaws amendment to not require a local NCAC storage device.
I think that's appropriate.
I do too, but I'd like to somehow weave in there that the county is actually responsible. We're responsible for providing it to the county for
Right.
permanent storage, and I think we need to have words to that effect.
Right. I agree. So I'm going to delete why is it not tracking? Let me just do it this way. I'll do it with, just to make sure it should be tracking, but it's not working real well for me. I'm just going to do it like that. So, so we'll get to that policy or procedure also and change it in there. And I think we do say in there that the county is responsible ultimately, but we'll clarify that. Let me make a note. That's yours and mine, Wyatt.
Okay.
Oh, I believe I recall offhand, so we can do that. I'll send you something after the meeting, Tom, to include in R32. I don't think the membership tomorrow is going to care about this. It's more just to get ours in here.
What I'll do with R32 is I'll just start over from what you gave me. It's not that big a deal.
Okay, thank you. But I don't need to re-give you the stuff you've already put in some of it. Yeah, that sounds good.
I'll take it as fresh, new, and I'll just reapply everything.
Yeah,
when I apply it, actual text changes to R32, the change bars will go away.
Right.
Okay? Is that okay?
You mean,
well, I mean,
so the stuff that's showing that you changed between R31 and into R32 would go away. So nobody's seen those changes. So you may have to create an R33.
Well, okay. So this document is part of our process. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Fine. Fine.
I mean, why would the change bars go away if you're
Well, in your document, I can replicate them. Let me figure it out. Maybe I could just replicate your change bars. What I did was what I did was a copy and paste. And
I see what you're saying. I see. Yeah, because mine's kind of a mess right now because for some reason the changes aren't tracking as I'm doing the document, and I don't want to try to figure out why not in the middle of the meeting. But so what I'm doing is highlighting in yellow, or I'm going in and doing a manual cross out. It's not through change tracking.
I'll try
That
and
makes
provide
sense.
some,
I can
oh, yeah.
clean it up after and send it to you.
Okay, if you can clean it up, then I'll try to either replicate it or just do a wholesale replace and see a big
Yeah.
strikeout area.
So
Okay.
that does not bother me. I was confused. I thought you were saying all the other changes in R32 wouldn't be showing as changes, but you're just talking about this document.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think you need to do separate tracking for this document.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Does anyone else object to that? I think what we're approving today would take out any of that need for changes. So, okay. So Gary was asking about the posting of land use applications, and the notices are sent by Tillamook County, and he was wondering, how did this come about? Where I think that's actually what I said was, I believe that's one of the fundamental CAC responsibilities, is to get land use information out to members. So he was fine with that. It's just he was more curious about how that happened to come into the job description. But if anybody else has any other information, I think we
Yeah,
can just take this
I,
out.
we don't need, uh, we don't need to do that. That's the county's job. We have no responsibility or authority to say anything about it.
No, and it's all it says is post them. So post notices of land use application meetings and related Tillamook County rulings on the NCAC website. So it's for information only, not to take action necessarily.
Okay, because
So
we
there's a
don't necessarily,
section.
getting that, it means somebody's gonna have to monitor the notices because only a subset of, for measure 65, only a subset of people get notified. If we want general notification, somebody's gonna have to monitor that. Is that something we want to assign a job to?
Right now it's assigned to the secretary, or to the communications task force, and it would be up to the secretary to assign somebody to do it. And
Okay.
apparently he is doing it. He's
Oh,
doing
okay.
it. So he was just curious how it came about. And so there is a section of the website that has these kinds of notices. And he said he's only doing ones that seem like they're kind of major. I don't think he does every little, home improvement thing, but if it's like a development or something like that. So that may be something in the future that we look at. We keep a note here on what constitutes that, because you're right. He and I talked about that. If it's something, it's notices are sent by mail by the county to the property owners in the neighborhood around the property that's filing the application. But there may be some things that would be of interest to other people in the community that, if it's a little more major. So right now, I think it's just up to the secretary to determine what would constitute that. And that might be something rife for a
We
procedure
should
or,
probably say that.
Oh
right.
my God.
I don't know. It's kind of a path I didn't want to go down, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So maybe instead of the note on how did this come about, we say need to future describe's the wrong word, but describe criteria or what would constitute need for notice.
I'll see if I can come up with some general description. I think
Okay,
I can.
thank you. So basically, there aren't a bunch of changes. It's really more reformatting from bylaws into the policies and procedures. So let me highlight this. Okay, it's kind of messy right now, but Tom will clean it up, right, Tom? I'll
But of
email this
course,
to you. Okay, so based on this, what do you guys think about making it up to the executive board to make changes in job descriptions versus having them go to the membership? I mean, I don't think the membership's going to care necessarily, but I do have a bit of a concern, and it goes back to the trust issues from before, that a chairperson with concurrence from the executive board could make some major changes in what the chairperson is able to do on their own. I guess they're still constrained somewhat by the bylaws. I'll go back and look at the bylaws and the job descriptions and the bylaws, but I guess I just lean toward getting membership concurrence on things
Well,
rather than
Nancy,
leaving it.
I
Yeah,
think-
Wyatt?
maybe we can do something that would give the executive committee the option of either changing the job description in something that's minor, or at their option, referring it to the membership for change. As kind of an initiative and a referendum type of process. And I think maybe that's a general thing for the executive committee and the policies and procedures that we could generally add at the end, that any of these policies and procedures, if the executive committee feels it's of a major import, that they can refer the matter to the membership for vote. And that way it gives them kind of a safety valve.
So I'd like to take it a step further. If I could go with this if we were to say, if there are no objections to anyone on the executive board, then it can be approved by the executive board if it's unanimous. But if there's even one person who feels like it needs to go to the membership, then it goes to the membership.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah, I like that. And, that's kind of a general parliamentary procedure anyway, without objection, da, 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 da. But I think we have to differentiate between various levels and importance of job descriptions. The bylaws, for example, identifies bylaw descriptions. I mean, job descriptions. And then there are policies that further describe, and then there are procedures that even further, and it's a step down each time. And I think the executive board should have that prerogative to make those changes. But I think you're right. I think that has to be announced, and it has to be shared with the membership at a regular membership meeting, and be open for objection on the part of the membership. So how you word that, I think that obviously allows for that opportunity, then that would be fine.
Well,
I mean-
Michael, you're talking about two different things, because essentially what you're saying is it has to be referred to the membership, and Nancy's talking about a situation where it would be referred if there's one objection in the executive committee.
Well, maybe I'm a little more conservative, because I think that the board, the executive board, can make such decisions, but that it's incumbent upon them to announce that, so that the membership is aware that those things are changing. And I think that probably will occur anyway. I mean, the executive board doesn't exist in isolation. But for me, in terms of parliamentary input, it is always appropriate for the membership to be aware of changes, so that any member can object to the change. It's just a simple thing. It's a principle, And in that way, of course, you don't have leadership going off on their own without anybody knowing.
Do you, and this is sorry, Nancy, I'm kind of stepping on your toes here, but seeing as you've got some experience with this, Michael, do you think you could write a general referendum and objection section for the policies and procedures that you have seen before that works?
Sure. Yeah, tell me where the appropriate place would be for that to go.
I think it's got to be a general procedure.
So in our procedures, we've got something existing that Tom wrote about. The reference section can be changed
Right.
by the executive board with the exception of the map, the job descriptions, and there may have been something else I don't remember, but
Well, I think it just needs an extra sentence there that says that changes are to be reported to the general membership.
And also the single objection, I think is a
Well,
very
yeah,
good
sure,
added.
if that's even essential. I don't know that a single objection is,
With it's for
let
trust.
Tom finish.
Go
I
ahead.
didn't
Yeah.
hear what you were saying, Tom.
Yeah, it's for trust. I mean, yeah, a single objection, and the membership will be notified, as that is done, and it is published. I can add words to that effect. I
Yeah,
think
okay.
that's a good.
I think that's fine.
That's
Yeah.
a good change.
Yeah, I like both of those because, I think reporting is great, Michael, and then having the single objection if nobody objects to that being added here. I just in case there's a,
Yeah.
3 or 4
And-
to 1 or something, that one person may be the one that, has a legitimate concern, and if not, it goes to the memberships.
Yeah, and it also makes life easier for the editor, whoever that might be in the future.
So I think I can go for that. This is
Okay.
the bylaws with the officer duties. And they're,
Okay.
so really it would be anything that wouldn't be included in there. I'm feeling a little more comfortable with that. So
Yeah, understand, my concern is limited to not having the leadership take off on their own.
right.
And that there be accountability to the membership. That's all there is.
No, it's a great point.
Yeah, under normal circumstances, it's never going to be an issue. Nobody cares.
Right. It's just having lived through when it did matter.
Yes, right.
That's where
Yeah.
these are coming from. So
But
I think
you know,
I'm the only one who was attending when it did matter. So
Okay.
that's,
but
so thank you.
But part of what we're doing here is anticipating that single event.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
That's really what it's about.
So I appreciate that. So Tom, do you want to go ahead? I see you're home. Congrats.
Good guess. Good guess.
I hope we didn't interrupt your breakfast out or something fun like that.
No,
But
you interrupted shopping.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
okay with that.
Okay. Anne may not be happy with me, but
No
anyway.
comment. No comment.
So if you could share R32, we can go to that section. I think it's at the beginning of the references section, isn't it? Or
Yeah,
no,
okay.
you have a separate procedure for it.
Yeah, I need to find it. Okay, R32. There it is. And now I'll save this here. Seems to me when I fix the share, it ought to share it immediately, but it doesn't. Okay. Okay, and we're down to reference. Which one we're at?
The one for references, you have a policy or a procedure, I think, on references section of being able to make changes to it. Maybe it's a policy.
I think it's a policy.
Yeah, I think it should be a policy.
Yeah.
Updates to reference 13.
Yep. All right. Okay, so it should be paragraph 2. Which is just to, I'm just going to put a note here so that we have a.
Right. So basically, you would be taking out the exceptions. Although I still have a question. Maybe no one cares about the map area, but I don't think we would be making any major change to the map area really anyway, right?
We're talking about map area. Do I have the neighbor? I must admit, I don't remember which maps I have in this document versus the other one.
You have
Yeah.
the membership map area that was in the bylaws
Oh,
originally,
but we also have
and then you
uh,
also have the
neighborhoods
districts, which
and
are
that,
so great. And that one you should be able to change it willy-nilly. So
yeah, that, and in fact, it does need to be updated because I forgot one of those further north
yeah.
that Susan pointed out. And I'm not happy with it anyway. So,
I think it's really cute. But yeah, we'll let you fix
not that
that.
much detail, unfortunately.
So I think I can back off
Okay.
as long as we have those caveats. Rather than having exceptions, we just
Uh,
say 13.
13.
Oh,
Okay. No,
no, it's policy 13.
policy 13. Okay. Okay.
That we just take out the exception part and say the updates to the reference section shall be done with the approval of the executive board, providing it is unanimous,
Yeah, but
or maybe
unanimous.
with the unanimous approval of the executive board. If not unanimous,
Well, then
then
okay.
it goes to the membership. I think it needs to be spelled out.
Okay.
These updates do not require a vote of the members unless, it would be the right wording. The executive board is not in agreement or something.
Yeah, I'll.
Yeah. Sure, that works.
It's probably,
Well, without unanimous agreement of the executive board, the issue will be referred to the membership.
That's great.
yeah, I'll say that. Please don't make me do this live.
Because that makes it positive instead of negative.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah, I'll positivize double negatives. Yeah. Oh, I might have to change it anyway right now. I'm allergic to double negatives. Okay, I don't know. I'll fix that.
And then add a report to the membership will be given anytime a change is made to the reference section.
Dot, dot, dot. Okay, fair enough. I'll fix it. You got to make me do it live, or you got to go on?
No, I'm just cogitating here that I mean, Robert's rules allows members to object. I'm just
I mean, if we could have it done at a membership meeting, that would give people the chance to object.
mhm.
Just a notice. But seems like that's a bit artificial. This is just
Yeah.
references. I mean, people have the option of objecting, and then we'll process that because that's a note to the bylaws committee.
Right. Yeah.
So that's already mechanisms already there.
Okay. How
And
does that sound to everybody? Assuming Tom wordsmiths it a little bit.
Sounds good.
we have a problem with having people to do things, and having
Yeah.
more things to do is not a good idea.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Are you happy with that, Tom?
I'm not completely unhappy.
Okay. I guess that's as good as we get. I think we have an agreement. We have a deal. All right.
Okay, I'll fix that sentence. Other
Okay.
than that, we're good.
Okay. Otherwise, I had intended to have a section on voting, and I'm sorry, we're having kind of a family medical emergency, so I haven't had time to get to it. But So I intend to write something in the next few days, but it may just have to wait for the 17th feedback session to get that out to people. I'll see how I do. I'm not going to be able to do it between now and tomorrow with a chance for all of you to weigh in. So I might try to do it before the Wednesday night feedback session, but I will draft something definitely and send it to all of you in the next few days to look at, but we wouldn't be able to approve it until later. And I think voting is kind of key. Originally, we had voting in the surveys and straw polls section and pulled it out. So it's already partly written, but it's kind of key where we have to put in a bit about roll call voting and that kind of thing. So I don't want to have that done. The rest of the job descriptions, I kind of like if we approve this, we can add job descriptions to the with the approval of the executive board, starting to seem a little more positive to me. I want to I discussed this with the officers and committee chairs in the meeting last Saturday, and that I want to talk with each of them before we submit, because that was really helpful to, talking with Gary, and just make sure. I think the others are going to be a lot more simple than the Secretary Communications Task Force one. But the treasurer one, we definitely need to have something on how the forms look, because Chris wasn't sure what to include in a financial report. So we spell out what a form for a end of year report and a bi-monthly, membership meeting treasurer's report. And I think that can be pretty simple, but it sounds like that would be helpful for him. And he's a CPA, so if it's helpful for him, it would be helpful for anybody coming into the job. The chair, I'll run that by Mark, but and then the vice chair, I don't know that we even need to add very much. I'll talk with Alex and see if he's noticing anything. But
Well, that is typically just a standby position.
Yeah.
I think Robert's Rules even says that.
right, and we added a few things to the bylaws that basically assist where asked to
Yeah.
give a little bit more substance. But I don't know that there's anything we can flesh out on that. So maybe we don't even have a job description for it that's separate.
I think we just lift it from the Robert's Rules. I think it probably, I vaguely remember, but if it doesn't, then I'll just find it someplace. We'll just put
Mhm.
take over as necessary and
Yeah.
assist as necessary.
You mean for the vice president?
Yeah.
The vice chairperson, yeah.
Vice chair, excuse me, vice chair, yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, chairman is not incorrect. It is non-gendered because the original derivation of the term comes from the Old English man, M-A-N-N, which was gender neutral, as in human.
I don't know that MANN was gender
Yes,
neutral.
well, according to the
Etymology.
etiologist, I think, whatever it is, the word guy that I listened to said that wasn't. I thought it was interesting excuse me, it was Middle English. Middle English, MANN was gender neutral.
Okay, because in German it means man. So yeah.
No, okay. I'll point you to the.
Yeah, it's all right, Tom. I'm not going to get
Okay.
into it, but I don't think we need to.
I
I agree with you that person is awkward, but it is what's currently in Robert's rules also. So
I think we should use being.
you're taking over for
We're
Bill.
getting humanist.
Yeah, my other
Alex?
organization calls these positions chairs, and I decided I was not going to go in and suggest changing it to chairperson. But anyway, okay. So, Tom, do you want to just briefly go through there? The other few changes included, Mark wanted in our meeting last week to add. Let me get to my email thing. I've got the list I was sending to you.
I'm looking at it. I'm not sure I
On policy
accurately-
6, statements
Policy 6.
and official positions. And so add all formal statements and official positions of the NCAC should be approved by the NCAC membership and submitted by the NCAC chairperson. And apparently that resulted, yeah, you have it there, from a conversation you had with Mark, Tom. So he really liked that, and we did too.
Yeah, I assumed it was in there somewhere, and when Mark asked about it, oh, okay, no, you do it.
Yeah, so it came up with the submittal of the community plan draft, that it went from Mark rather than from the community plan
It-
chair, and so it really made sense.
Yeah, that was my decision, actually. I thought it was inappropriate for the subcommittee
Yes.
to submit a report.
Absolutely. I think that that's a great change. So otherwise, I think some of it was just cleanup, like get rid of procedure 12 because it was moved to 18 and 19.
Yeah, that's a partial change there. I was going to put communications task force there, but it was already, so I don't remember what, this is work in progress. So I'll just delete 12.
Okay. And then the NCAC archives is where we were going to take out the local drive. So, and I guess we still owe you that. So Gary and Wyatt and I will work on that. We can have 3 because Gary's not on the subcommittee.
Yeah, I've got that there.
And that's where we'll put in that it's really up to the county, but in the meantime, we'll be using blah, blah, blah. So Wyatt, maybe you and I could meet with Gary over the coming week and
Yeah.
draft something.
Mhm.
Or I might take a stab at drafting, and then we can meet with Gary and he can pick it apart.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's amazingly knowledgeable about all this stuff.
Yeah, he really is.
Which may be why he's not re-upping.
Yeah, well, yeah, I keep trying to convince him that it'll be a lot quieter, but a lot to do.
Yeah.
It's a big job.
Well, obviously we've had now 2 secretaries in a row. I don't know about the previous ones, but we're extremely conscientious to their own detriment.
Right, right. Well, and the number of meetings that have been happening over the last 2 years, and particularly this year, he was saying how many meetings they had in April, and it was just some incredible amount. We did him a favor by canceling some of our feedback sessions, but yeah, it's a lot to manage, even if he doesn't have to do minutes. Okay, does anyone have anything else that they want to bring up for the policies, procedures, and references before we go into our feedback session? And Tom, you in particular have anything that we need to update?
Yeah, I would like, I have illusions that I can actually, well, okay, I moved that to the
Right.
section as you suggested.
Yeah.
I have illusions that I might be able to turn this into prose, and a couple of others that say need to be rewritten. I mean,
Right.
they're not wrong, but they're not prose. And I think it's important to have them be prose.
Yeah. And we
Unless
mentioned that.
unless anyone objects, I'll try to do that.
Yeah, as long as it captures what steps people need to go to, I'm fine with that. It just, Michael,
Steps,
speak up
steps,
if you
yeah.
want to change that. But yeah, and I don't think you have to do it before tomorrow. We can just do what we did in the executive board feedback session and say, Tom will be rewriting some of this because he doesn't like 5 levels of bullet points. So, that's what we did last Saturday. And there are a couple of them with it because, I like flowcharts.
Yeah, kind of went downhill from there. I think it can be clear with anything which is an iterative list obviously should be an bullets. If it's not an iterative list, but rather discussion, I think it needs to be prose. But I will, you want that to be a separate document or should I do it in place?
Take your best shot. Let's see what it
Yeah.
looks like.
Okay.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, I certainly agree with you. It just, when it's in an outline form and there are multiple levels, it's
Oh,
well,
absolutely. I don't disagree with that being the outline of what the text needs to be,
right. Yeah,
but that's what it is.
yeah. All right.
Yep, go for it.
Okay.
We can send it to our consultant.
Well, we've put an awful lot of thought and detail into this section, this particular procedure. Whether or not it's followed has yet to be.
Yeah,
has
it was
yet to be.
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Michael.
Well, that's all. It's just it's an awful lot, and down the road, it's probably going to be executed by people who have really very, very little knowledge of the intricacies of this business. And I think the simpler, the better.
I think that the main thing that this can do too is let them know this is hard. This is complicated to do right, and ask for help.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that could be in bold. And Ran at the meeting on Saturday said that this would have been really helpful to have when they did the last community plan survey, and so he was looking forward to this. So it at least lets people know. I think by keeping the detail, it lets people know these are considerations.
Yes, of course it is.
And yes, I need to go get professional
But
advice.
yeah, that's right. If it's a really big deal, then, we have Oregon State University in our back pocket.
So, yeah, I think this is absolutely the kind of thing that has to be in procedures, because it just lays it out. So I have no problem that it's going to take a couple of pages to do.
Okay.
Okay. Ta-da.
Anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Let's see, I think straw polls is also a candidate.
Mhm. Yeah.
Why did I have that highlighted? I don't remember. Please help.
New and needs refinement. I thought there was one, like it has parentheses, possible areas include, I think it's mainly the display of the notices. Yeah, I see why it just needs,
It just
it's
needs
like
to
a
be
train of thought thing, and it looks like it just needs to be, you could send it back to Susan. Ask her to update
okay.
it.
Okay, if that's the idea, I'll take a look at it, and I'm not going to get to it for tomorrow. But
No, I don't think it needs to. I'm really feeling like the point of the feedback sessions are to just kind of go through the document, let people know what's happening. They can read it. They can get back to us if they have any questions. They can bring up anything here if they've happened to read it ahead of time. But
yeah.
so far everything's been extremely positive. I haven't heard a single objection by anybody. So just a few little things last Saturday for suggestions, but they were pretty minor. So
Yeah, basically people are going to tune in and say, "Oh, it's this." Oh,
mhm,
okay.
I think so. It seems to be, and hopefully on the 31st it'll just go right through. Unlike the meeting with the bylaws one, which I was hoping would just go right through, and it was 4 hours. So I would almost think we could put this in a regular membership meeting, but I don't think we should. I mean, it just takes a while just to go through it as an explanation. So I think having it on the 31st is still a good idea. And hopefully we get a quorum. So you may have to have spouses ready to jump on, because we'll need 15 at the meeting on May 31st.
Excuse me.
Yeah, bless you.
I think I'm thinking back to one of our first sharing feedback meetings when there was such a controversy over who's a member and so on and so forth, and people were on edge about all of that.
Yep.
And we had, I don't know, 40 people at the show up.
We had over 100 at one
Oh,
point.
that's right, over 100 people.
We did.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
did. Yeah.
And
Article
then
3.
and it has dropped down significantly to
Yeah.
almost a zero after that. And I think that bodes very, very well.
Yeah, I think so. I'm taking it very positively.
Yes, of course.
So, yeah. Anything else anyone wants to talk about on the document, or can we go ahead and accept the changes for? Do you want to go through step by step, or?
I move we accept and move forward to feedback.
Second,
Okay,
Okay,
so
any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
I,
Any, obviously no opposed. Opposition, you all voted aye. I vote
okay,
aye.
so what
Oh.
I'll do is I will publish 32 and update the feedback slide set appropriately.
Thank
great.
you. I'll send you the stuff from today with the communications task force and the secretary thing that's been updated.
Okay, that'd be good.
Okay. And I'm just not even going to worry about change tracking. I'm just going to have it highlighted in yellow for you. So,
Yes, yes, Microsoft made our life a little bit harder because they
Yeah.
don't want it, because they want us to use
right.
their
So,
stuff.
so thank you guys. I think I thought about seeing if we needed another meeting next Friday, but I don't think we do. I think we can just have a meeting on the 16th and be all ready for the 17th last feedback session, unless anybody particularly wants a meeting on next Friday. And I think we're really in good shape because, as White pointed out, we don't have to be completely finished with this document. It'll be a living document, and we can make we have to have something to do next year. Tom, you kind of missed the discussion, but we're thinking prematurely because we're not elected yet, but of taking the summer off and
Oh,
having July, August, and the first meeting in September not meeting. And I'm going to be traveling from mid-August to mid-September. So
Good for
so
you. Where are you
actually,
going?
me too.
Where are you
we're
going?
going to the Arctic.
Oh,
Yeah, and an
wow.
expedition trip, going out of Reykjavik and going up the eastern, through. We're going through our future states, up through Greenland and around above the
thought-
Arctic Circle and back
Is this
down on the coast
is
of
this the
of Canada.
Lindblad group?
It's similar. It's Quark.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, they're a similar expedition type, 200 passenger, 190 passenger ship
Oh,
for about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks.
I'm
So,
envious.
yeah, they're a good company. Anyway, I shouldn't. We're being recorded. I
That's
shouldn't
okay.
talk
That's
about a
okay.
trip. But anyway,
Okay.
so if
So,
there's no objection, we'll talk about that further after we're actually elected. But at some point before the June meeting, we'll need to submit our not self-nominate ourselves, assuming we're all. The impression I had from all of you is that you were interested in continuing next year. I hope you will. And I would like to continue next year because I think it'll be mainly tweaking the documents. Tweaking.
We'll be tweakers.
Right.
Oh, sort of. So we do have a meeting tomorrow, right?
We do.
And-
It is a
and-
feedback session.
Yeah.
And because I'm
It is
looking
at
the
10.
schedule.
It's at
10.
10.
Yeah.
And then we have a meeting Wednesday night. And Tom, there's one person signed up that's not the subcommittee or Mark for tomorrow. And there's no one signed up that's not part of the subcommittee for Wednesday night. So
Oh.
so people do often just go in, right beforehand. And so that's possible that might happen. But we'll see. But even if there's one person, I want to go
Yeah.
through it. And so that's why I was inviting people. I think it was before you came on. You don't have to attend if you don't want to. So far, I think everybody was planning to, but let me know.
I'm now registered for it. It wasn't on the calendar
No, they didn't get it on the they didn't get any of these meetings on the calendar. Well, no, this one was. Saturdays was on the calendar. Today's
Yeah,
was not
Saturdays,
until
yeah.
until God, I think it was like yesterday or the day before they finally went on. So,
Because I'm
and
on by that calendar, and
no, they do it month by month, and for some reason the May meetings just didn't get put on. So, I mean, anyway, there was a special email that was sent out, and I didn't even know it was coming out about the bylaws related meetings that came out from the NCAC yesterday. Last night, I think it was. It went through the schedule, but it did not mention the May 31st meeting. So,
look at the notice I got yesterday that confused me. So, the meeting for PP&R section, which is previously has now been changed to May 3rd.
oh, yeah. So they're talking about the feedback sessions. I don't know why they would have even said that.
I don't
I
either.
wish they had, I wish they had let me see a draft. But I appreciate them putting this together, so I can't really complain. Here it is. 3 meetings. Oh, I don't see that. It came out yesterday and it was just 3 meetings to discuss.
No, I got a separate. It said you'd been registered for it, and now it's on Saturday. And I didn't read it carefully last night,
Okay.
and I
Oh,
just assumed it was today's meeting.
oh, because we had originally named the one, we canceled like 2 or 3 of them, and we had called them feedback session 2, 3, 4. So gosh, I wonder if everybody got that
It could be why
who had
people didn't
registered.
show up today.
Well,
I mean, I don't know. Doesn't matter.
well,
But that's
no
why
one,
I wasn't there. I have an
yeah.
excuse. Really, I do. Honest.
Okay. All right. Okay. Glad you were able to make it anyway. So yeah. Anyway, no, the note looks good. It was just yeah, okay. So you got a separate one. All right. So other than that, let me get back to my screen. I think action items are Tom's going to update R32 of the document and get that out and update the presentation. Before that, I'm going to send him right after the meeting the communications and task force and secretary stuff to put in, update what we talked about today. And then I'm going to continue working on the voting section. And right now, Gary's still working on the section and the references on the phone, the emails for the board members, the executive board members. So that's just that'll hang out until he's got those set up. He's looking into setting those up. And I think otherwise,
No, one more thing.
okay.
You have the action to go to the executive board suggesting a history task force.
Okay. Okay.
Please.
I will do that. I will talk to them about that. I think we can go ahead and have it in the policies and procedures as a future. But yes, I will definitely talk to them about establishing it. My guess is that we wouldn't try to do much until next year, next fiscal year.
Would you like to solve a problem for me? That would do it.
Oh, you went to them to do it. Okay, it could actually affect the community plan.
Yes.
Okay, I hear you. I will do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we'll talk more.
I don't want to arbitrate what's in the community plan in terms of history. I wasn't here.
Right. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. And then Michael, you'll get the minutes out for last meeting and this meeting.
Yes,
They can be quite brief. Thank you very much.
yep.
And otherwise, I think we're kind of coming to a close. I think any of the stuff that we have, TBA or whatever the words are that Wyatt has, is there anything that's in that document Tom, that you feel like we need to do in the next couple of weeks? I have to go back and look at the
Which
TBAs, but
document are you talking about? The one that is auxiliary or the other
R32, R32.
one? I don't have any
Oh.
action items on it, so.
Okay, I think I do. I'll look
Uh,
again at it, but I think the rest of them are relatively minor. We can tackle next year.
Okay, so I'll do an R32, which has the changes indicated. Do you want an R33, which is clean, so that I can use that as a reference?
That would be lovely.
Okay,
Thank you. And then you'll use the R30, you'll use the R33 document for the presentation.
correct.
So the slides that have the detail on the surveys, the ones that are just full of words salad, that are on the presentation slides, could you maybe on those just say detail in the document, or like on the survey one, this is really complex, refer to the document, or just something. I mean, it's not necessary. We kind of just did that when we were presenting on Saturday. We can do that again.
Well, my thought is that no one's going to, unless
Care.
something is live, no one's going to want to know the details, gory details.
Right. No, that's true. Okay.
So and one of the things I'd considered is in the slide set, hiding for the presentation, hiding the ones that are detailed, and then we can unhide as necessary. I haven't played with that before, but
Yeah, I'd rather just keep them and skip over.
I mean, they'll be in the presentation that they see, but the live presentation, if we hide them, it'll be smoother. I'll experiment with that, and then we can talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, because to unhide will take extra time. I want us to be really quick going through. If we only have two or three people, I think we can do it pretty quickly.
Okay.
So we won't spend. I wouldn't worry about spending that kind of time, Tom. If we were having 50 people or 10 people, maybe, but I think we can just blow through. I don't know. What do other people think who either viewed or were at the last presentation?
I think you have to make that choice when we get there and see how many people show up.
Okay.
If there's a lot of new folks, they're gonna have some questions. But if it's the same folks, we just move along.
Yeah, I bet we don't have any repeat offenders.
I bet. Yeah. I bet not. Okay.
They're all still asleep, right?
Right. So on your calendars, just make sure, because I had the wrong time on some of these previous calendars here, that the May 17th feedback session is at 1:30, not 10. It's because the farmers market opens that day, so we don't want to conflict with it.
Okay, May 17th.
Mhm.
Okay, I didn't pick that one up yet.
That's our final feedback session. Hopefully our final feedback session.
I'm
Why are
sorry.
you laughing?
Yeah,
My cynicism prevailed, sorry.
Okay, well, I'm not planning any further feedback sessions other than the meeting itself. To adopt it might end up doing that, but I'm really hoping we can just present it, not go through it step by step like we did with the bylaws, and let people know it's going to be a motion to approve, and then ask people if they want to see it. I'm guessing people will just go, let's take a vote. I'll be optimistic.
How about in that I can plan to do a couple of slides that say just the titles.
Right.
If anybody interested in this, and then we can go
Right.
to that.
Right. No, I think that's good. And that one we might do just the ones without the extra slides, or have them hidden. So the meeting on the May 31st, we have the main slide if needed, and then we have the other supplementary slides hidden.
I think I'll figure out how I do. Yeah, I know how to construct that. I think I can make it easy to go through. That's what I'm looking at. If you press on a title, you go to that one, detail, and then
you can have a jump or something, right?
and then a jump back.
Yeah.
That
But
way,
don't do that for these feedback sessions,
no,
just
no,
May
just for the final.
31st.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gives you some time. Well, okay, thank you guys very, very much. Any other comments? Okay, thank you for everything. It's just, you guys are so great to work with. All
Okay.
right, see you tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Yes,
Which
Oh, we
we'll
have a
have
meeting
four,
tomorrow? Oh, yeah.
yeah,
we'll
we'll
be
have
there. All right.
four of us to the one person who signed it. I'm expecting more, but who knows? All right, have a great rest of your day,
Okay.
everybody.
Thanks, Nancy.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a
Thanks,
lot. I'm going
Nancy.
to stop
Appreciate it.
recording.